In the early 90s, mission aviation within the Adventist Church was on the decline. Adventist training facilities were closing, and mission pilots were retiring, with no one to take their place in the mission field. The need for mission pilots in remote parts of the world was still very great, but fewer and fewer pilots stepped up to answer the call. Yes, mission aviation within the church was in big trouble. But God had a plan. Big problem we faced was, for legal reasons, Adventist schools and academies were being forced to close their aviation programs. Without these programs, very few new pilots were being trained for mission service. All the while, more and more requests for mission aircraft and pilots were pouring in. There was a great imbalance, and many opportunities to spread the gospel were not being met. Even in our day, without aircraft and well-trained pilots, thousands of people will not hear the gospel of Jesus Christ. So in the early 90s, church leaders got together and under God's guidance devised a plan to reach precious souls in the remote corners of the world. The solution was the establishment of Adventist World Aviation.
And it was that need that drove me, after thinking about it for some time while at the General Conference, to say, let me bring people together who have been involved at the General Conference side with aviation initiatives. They had done it in other parts of the world, now they're in Washington. I brought those people together as well as others who were involved in aviation here in the First World and said, what can we do? And that's where the concept of Adventist World Aviation was born.
As they developed Adventist World Aviation, a separate board of directors was set up. Now, Adventist World Aviation wasn't set up to be an independent ministry. It was set up to mirror conference policy in terms of its infrastructure, its ministry outlook. It doesn't have independent theology, but it's there to support the church, but it's also there to reach out into the communities as well, both medically and physically. And educationally. As they started selecting board of directors, they selected a president. Don Starlin was selected to be president for Adventist World Aviation. And it was an exciting day for the aviation industry because, inside the church that is, because it seemed that there was concern inside the leadership of the church to preserve this tremendous mission outreach, to be able to save lives that under normal circumstances we just couldn't do. So it was a new day. We were very excited about that.
It breathed new life into mission aviation for the Seventh-day Adventist Church. By creating a self-supporting ministry, mission aviation could continue to grow and thrive, reaching remote areas around the world. In Guyana, South America, the AWA Aviation Mission Outpost is fully operational. Daily, they seek to meet the needs of the Amerindian people that live deep in the jungles. Here in the northwest region of Guyana, there are no road systems to connect them to the rest of the world. They are completely isolated from supplies, medical aid, and the gospel message. This is where Adventist World Aviation plays a vital role in providing aid for those who live deep in the jungles.
The reason aircraft are so vital here, for one thing, where I am right now, the only way I can get here is by boat or airplane. Doing a medical evacuation out of the jungle is important to a person that is ill, and time is of a critical factor. There are injuries that occur where a person needs to have the problem addressed today. The boat can take 24 hours to get to Georgetown, which is where the higher level of medical care is provided. An airplane ride is about an hour and 10 or 20 minutes. We're able to save their life, whereas if they go on the boat, they could be dead by the time they arrive.
Greg Von Fossen received an urgent phone call early this morning from one of the healthcare aides in a nearby village, saying they needed to fly a patient into the Georgetown hospital right away. The healthcare worker didn't give many details other than requesting an immediate air medevac. Today he will be flying the patient in a brand new Pathfinder airplane that was delivered to the project just last week. In fact, this will be the very first medevac flight using this plane. This newly modified Cessna is ready to be put to work, saving lives. Although it's a new airplane, Greg must still do a thorough pre-flight inspection. Every inch of the plane must be inspected. Currently, there is no hangar for the airplanes to be stored at night. The pre-flight inspections are to check for any damage or vandalism that might have occurred overnight. First, Greg checks the fuel levels and to make sure that there's no water in the fuel tanks. In this aircraft, fuel is stored in the wings. Greg checks the levels to make sure he has enough fuel to make the flight. Greg also checks the tail of the plane to make sure the elevator and the rudder move easily. These parts control the change in pitch and direction of the flight of the plane. Next, he checks the flaps of the aircraft. These are especially important during takeoff and landing, as they increase lift or add drag depending on their use. The propeller must be free of any nicks, scratches, chips, or cracks. These gravel runways can often throw up small rocks that can greatly damage the propellers, so it's important to examine them before each flight. After the entire plane has been carefully examined, Greg finds it in perfect working order. He can now tell them to prepare the patient because he is ready to make this flight.
In a world filled with heroic tales of pilots braving the skies, there exists a silent hero, hidden in the shadows. Meet Kyle, an airplane mechanic who works tirelessly at Adventist World Aviation, ensuring the aircraft are in perfect condition for their life-changing missions. Every day, Kyle faces the challenging task of maintaining and repairing these planes, while the missionary pilots soar through the skies, saving lives overseas and in the midst of natural disaster. Kyle's work can go unnoticed. As the pilots embrace the blazing sun and the unknown perils of the mission field, Kyle meticulously checks engines, fine-tunes systems, and ensures each component is in perfect harmony. But he rarely witnesses the impact his work has on the lives he indirectly touches. While the missionary pilots become the face of heroism and salvation, their flights are made possible by Kyle's unwavering dedication. But amidst the monotony of his everyday routine, Kyle understands the profound impact he has on Adventist World Aviation's mission. The safe transportation of missionaries, supplies, and medical teams to unreached corners of the world would be impossible without his work. In the grand tapestry of his noble cause, Kyle might not experience the pulse-pounding thrill of saving lives on the front lines, but his labor of love helps weave the fabric of hope and love. Through his unwavering commitment, Kyle plays an integral part in the lives of countless individuals. Even if he remains behind the scenes, his every action reverberates across oceans and continents, transforming communities and inspiring hope.
My name is Kyle Stevenson, and I am the Chief of Maintenance for Adventist World Aviation. And I have a wife who is the Executive Administrative Assistant for AWA as well. She works with AWA. And a daughter who is 10 years old currently. And she is a handful. She's all energy, but she is awesome, and we love her. She's just starting to get interested in aviation now, so we're kind of happy about that. I'd say the biggest challenge would probably be working in conditions in which you're not provided with everything you need. Oftentimes, even here in the office, working in our hangar here, I don't always have all the tools or equipment necessary to do the job, and I have to improvise. And especially in the field, I have to improvise a lot because we definitely don't have what you need, everything we need there to complete a job, efficiently. So things take, in the field, they take 10 times longer because you don't have all the equipment and tools and everything necessary just because of the location of, where our bases are, and availability of tools and supplies is pretty limited in those areas. I'd say that was probably one of the biggest. And so originally the Cherokee 140 was a customer aircraft. I'm actually a registered installer for Avionics, a company that makes gauges and ADSB equipment to install on aircraft. I'm a certified installer for them, and this gentleman contacted me to install a ADSB piece of equipment on his plane, make his aircraft airworthy for flying and controlled airspace. And come to find out later that his airplane was going through annual, and it failed its annual due to the engine. Engine was making metal, and so that condemned his engine, and his airplane was not airworthy at the time, and he decided that he would actually donate the plane to AWA because he couldn't afford to replace the engine at that time. And so we ended up with the plane. We had to get the aircraft to our facility in Smithfield, where we changed out the engine and put a new engine in it and did a quick annual to the plane, make it airworthy, and flew it up to our base here in Wilson. Part of that was installing the propeller engine. And so plans for the 140 are to have it here at our facility here in Wilson, to be a trainer and a time builder for current pilots trying to get their pilot's license and acquired license to build time, because as a pilot, you have to have a certain amount of time to be eligible to fly some of our missions and the things we do here. It can be difficult to do my job without having any help. It's hard because to be able to work on aircraft, you have to be certified by the FAA, have a license to work on an airplane. You can't work on an airplane without either being supervised by a licensed mechanic or actually having a license. When I get a big project that comes in, oftentimes it can be a little overwhelming. The way I handle it, though, is I break it down into sections, and just one thing at a time. If I have multiple things to do on an airplane, I just focus on one thing, get that done, move on to the next. Good morning. This is my daily ritual. I get here, I come in and walk inside the office. Say good morning to Kathy.
Good morning.
Off into the hangar we go. I don't always have projects at the hangar, but currently we have a couple major projects. I got the 6577 Whiskey we're working on. It's going through avionics upgrades and finishing up the engine install that we started in Smithfield. So usually what I'll do is I'll come in, I'll gather tools and supplies for what I need for the day, start working, and gather any instructional manuals or whatever it is I need, and get to work on the planes. I don't always have planes here to work on, but I do have to always think about our planes in the field as well. So we have multiple airplanes in the field, and I have software that keeps up to date on the planes to how many hours they're flying and what's coming due for maintenance, and I have to keep that in mind for scheduling. As far as even when I need to travel to the field, I have to think about that because that all has to be scheduled ahead of time. And so I've got all these things I'm juggling around in my head even on a daily basis. Miami International Airport. Finding my way to the gate for Guyana. Update at Miami International Airport. We're waiting for my flight, about a 4-hour delay. I'll be leaving about 6:30 p.m. our time here in Miami, Florida, to head over to Guyana. Hello and welcome from Mabaruma, Guyana. This is Kyle Stevenson, Chief of Maintenance for Adventist World Aviation and Wings for Humanity. We are coming to an end of our stay here in Mabaruma, Guyana. We've done really hard work on both of our planes here. I'm standing next to one of them. This is 8838 X-Ray. This is the Pathfinder plane. And we've done really hard work with these planes to try and get them airworthy. Unfortunately, we've had a situation where these planes have been sitting for 2 years due to COVID, and we've had to do a lot of work on them to get them as close to airworthy as we can. Unfortunately, we've run into a few problems. There's been some damage to the planes caused by some locals. Because you can see behind me, the hangar is fully open to anyone that wants to just walk in, and we're working on securing that with the gate at the moment, but that's to come in the future. Also, we have some corrosion issues from the corrosive weather here in Guyana. One of our engines is completely seized up and it will not spin through. We're going to have to do a complete top end overhaul to it, replace all the cylinders. We've also had some corrosion issues with this plane as well. They're just more minor corrosion issues that can be easily solved, but since we haven't been here for 2 years, we don't have the supplies or the time currently to take care of those problems, so we're going to have to come back at a later date, probably next year, and fix these planes and get them up and running, hopefully with your support and your prayers. Thank you very much.
That's not good.
Open the doors on a good day. Typically we have about, 5 to 8 airplanes, not always in the hangar, but currently we've got 4 airplanes that are flyable, other in condition of being able to fly. This one's going through a major overhaul on engine and avionics, and we have our 206 over there. It was pretty much brand new last year from MMS, and the Piper Colt, which we just finished also putting a new engine in. And over there we have the Light Sport Cheetah, which we'll also use for very efficient flight training because it doesn't burn much fuel, and it's a good time building airplane for saving money and building time.
in the grand symphony of Adventist World Aviation's mission, where heroism and perseverance collide, there are unsung heroes who stand beside the courageous pilots and dedicated mechanics, our faithful donors. These generous individuals, driven by a common purpose, understand the power of their giving. Their modest contributions, like drops in the ocean, create ripples of impact that enable the mission to soar to new heights. While Kyle pours his heart and soul into maintaining the aircraft, the dedicated donors, like him, silently endure and selflessly give, knowing that their support keeps the mission alive. Just as Kyle longs to witness the tangible results of his labor, the kindness of donors becomes a bridge that connects them to the lives they touch. From remote villages to disaster-stricken areas, their contributions bring hope, healing, and salvation. Through every donation, no matter the size, these incredible supporters affirm their belief in the vision and purpose of Adventist World Aviation. Their faithfulness propels us forward, ensuring that the mission continues to impact lives around the world. To our faithful donors, we extend our deepest gratitude. Your unwavering commitment and willingness to endure with us enable us to go where no missionary has gone before, to make a difference in the lives of the most vulnerable. Just as Kyle's dedication embodies the spirit of Adventist World Aviation, your sacrificial giving fuels our aircraft, allowing us to carry the message of hope and compassion to the farthest corners of the earth. Together we forge a legacy of enduring commitment, tireless dedication, and unwavering faith.